Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Welcome back to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Matt and Garrett back with you again. We are excited to bring another episode to you. I will make it quick. If you are interested in learning more about ninja coaching and how we can help you take your business to the next level, help you grow your business, go check out ninjacoaching.com. You can also find us on Ninja Selling's Facebook page.
Website.
You can also go check out the Facebook group, which is the Ninja Selling Podcast. And we have 14,000 people over that in there that are along the same journey that you're on, applying Ninja into their businesses and their lives, and they will help you there. Matt, you're going to help me today. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. And you're going to help me too. We're going to be
vice versa. We're a team, man. We're in this together.
This is a fun topic that you brought up, particularly because we've talked about this before. It is a very common element of conversation in any type of development space, whether that's training, coaching, personal development, business development. But there's this little nuance that you had brought up when we were talking about that's like, oh, those are the things of that thing that we don't often, maybe pay attention to. So
to give a little bit of backstory to this, and I haven't talked about it too much. I have a weird superstition around talking about things too much. Especially when I'm on my own personal journeys, I like to go through my own personal journeys by myself. I don't know what that is. There's probably some psychology behind that. I'm an only child. That's what the problem is. This is mine. You can't have this. I'm not talking to you about it. But it was, so back in March 29th of 2023. So we're going back beginning of last year. I had a moment that I was like, I'm done drinking. I don't know for how long, but I'm done. It wasn't that I was crazy, out of control, reckless. It wasn't hurting my life. It's not like my wife came to me and said, I think you have a problem. It was me sitting back and saying, enough's enough. That's good. I think you've had your fair share, and we need to change. We need to change who we want to be moving forward and how I want to approach this world and my time and my people that are around me and be the best for everybody. So with that being said, I had a moment of clarity and woke up one morning and I said, that's done. The interesting thing is that there was obviously a time up front early on that I definitely had to keep myself busy. My garage got very clean. Projects that I had been trying to do for a long time all of a sudden became main priority because I was just trying to keep myself busy. People would come over. I was building a car, still building the car, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you've got so much stuff done." I'm all because I am just making projects for myself right now to keep myself focused on other stuff. But what's really interesting is what turned in from a day-to-day habit. What I've started to realize now, especially going through the holidays of 2023 and other things that have happened around me, is there's bigger habits and traditions that are really starting to come out now that I didn't realize how much alcohol for me played a role in these things, but also the things that I just own now is that's just how I've always done it. And my wife, Sarah, was talking to me about it. She said, how was it going through Christmas with the family? And I said, that was really interesting because I have a tradition. My old tradition was that every morning, Christmas morning, as we were opening presents with all the kids and all the stuff, I had a Bloody Mary. And that was my thing. I would come down, I would turn all the lights on, we'd get the music going, and man, it was Bloody Mary station was set up, and anybody who was over at our house, it was Bloody Mary time. And it was interesting to go through the grocery store going, oh, that's right. As I'm walking down the aisle and I wanted to grab certain bottles. I was like, oh, all right. And Matt, it was crazy because I didn't want the drink. It wasn't that I was going, I can't wait to have my drink. It was the tradition of the habit that was there. Opening presents with all the family in the evening because we do a big Christmas with all of our extended family, Christmas later in the day on Christmas. And the tradition is always that I have a beer in hand. And the tradition is always that I don't drive that day. Either Sarah drives that day or as the kids have gotten older, they have taken over driving on those days because Dad's enjoying Christmas. And it was the craziest thing to be like, I'm driving. I got it this year. You guys have fun, enjoy. I started checking off these traditions. And I remember sitting there while we were all opening gifts. and looking around the room and going, what a different experience this is. The thing that's making me want to go get a beer right now is the habit of going and grabbing a beer. I know there's a whole fridge full of them at that house. It is packed solid. It's like going to a bar, the best beer selection you can ever have at my mother and father-in-law's house. So it's like, it was there, but it wasn't like I need a drink. It was just I kept looking over to my side, and where there would usually be a beer, there was a LaCroix. And I was like, how interesting is this? But then how clear my head was and everything while I was sitting there taking everything in, I also had the moment of like, I wouldn't give this up for the world right now. Like, this is so awesome to be this alert and this on point with everything going on in my environment, which then led me to the episode that we're sitting here talking about today, Matt, which is how many things do we have as habits, not every single day, but around special occasions? And we're going to bring this back into real estate now, but around like when we first meet a buyer. It's not an everyday thing that we get to first meet a buyer, but what are our habits that we have around that? And are they all the best habits to make the best relationship ever? Or are they just things that we've just done forever because that's how we were taught 10 years ago and this is what we do now? Same thing with a new seller, same thing with closing, same thing with every single part of the transaction. And you wonder why some people have better results than others. And I think we have a lot of, they talk about it in Atomic Habits, Matt, James Clear's book, and he talks about all the little habits that we have every single day, every moment, every little thing that we do. And I don't know, man, there was just like a spotlight shined on it this year. And I've noticed it around all the little like friends that I would usually get together with and go grab a beer through the holidays, and how that's changed a little bit, and not being somebody who drinks. How many phone calls I didn't make and didn't receive saying, let's go grab a beer. Like I had to figure out a different way of doing it. I know I just dumped on you, Matt, a lot of stuff, and everybody out there just dumped a lot of stuff, but it's been really interesting. And this is where Matt and I started talking about what are all the habits and traditions that we hold on to that predict a lot of our world around us.
Yeah, that aren't done every day. I think it's interesting and awesome journey, by the way. And really thank you for sharing that and continuing to share, because you're still on this journey, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we look at daily habits all the time, right? With Atomic Habits, with the Slight Edge, with the Ninja 9. Hey, what are the things that we can do every day to move the needle, even if it's just getting 1% better every single day? And that's important. But I also feel like that's the easy part of habits, because we can see those results in a timely manner. We also have a better understanding of that. I think it's easier to train our brain that that's, what we should be doing. Whereas these less frequent things that come around the holidays, it's a lot easier to say, well, it's just this. And quite frankly, it's not like today would be any different if you went and had a few beers on Christmas, right? Nothing would be different today, because it's not like that was a problem that you had. You could have easily had some beers on Christmas, and today would be the exact same for the most part.
One of the thoughts that came up for me was, am I going to have next year's Christmas the same as I did this one? Because again, I haven't necessarily planned to stop drinking forever. It just turned into this, like, I think we're done for a while. And here we are 270 some odd days later, 280 days later, going like, it's still not doing it. Like, all right, moving along.
Yeah.
But that I had that moment of like, I keep documenting things. I wish I kept a journal of it, because it's all kind of mental documentation of like, this is my experience doing this different, and pluses and negatives. Was it a positive? Was it a negative? Is there anything I regretted by having made my decision, or was it all good stuff? And the good stuff list is huge. The very little, if anything, that I'm like, oh, that was a bummer. Like I don't do that anymore. I think the only one is I had one of my friends say, your humor has toned down. Like you are a little bit, you're not as goofy, and we don't have that side of Garrett as much anymore, but it's okay. I'm goofy enough. So I think, that's been my biggest kind of takeaway of it. But then I start looking at it like all the things that we do that we'll try. We will try something with a client where maybe we'll have flowers delivered at a certain point, and we go, that made a really good impact. Like they were so happy to receive that, but then we don't turn it into a long-term habit of getting that same gratitude and win over and over and over again. So is it just something you were trying? Or is this now the new person that you want to be? And I think that's the question that we need to get to in these bigger habits, these ones that happen not all the time, but they like, who do we want to be? How do we want to show up? What kind of impact we want to make? And I think this is where it opens up the bigger question.
Well, relating it to the buyer process there too. I mean, Larry, we had him on recently talking about, how to handle the potential changing environment here. And he says most people don't do an act one when it comes to the buyer process. Most people don't sit down and have this conversation. And it is one of those things when you leave an installation, you leave a training and you're like, oh, this buyer process, this is great. And since it isn't an everyday thing, it's not like, well, I'll try it today. Oh, I didn't do it the next day, but I'm back on it the next day. And we start to see, oh, hey, this is a good thing. The rarity of having the opportunity to start, because if you don't do the act one, then you're stuck going back and trying to do it again. And you never get that, brand new buyer moment, right? So when you get that call, the brain goes, well, this is how we've done it. And we're not totally sure that this works yet. So let's just go with what we're comfortable.
Yep.
Right. And I feel like that's the same with all the different habits in our lives that are situational, that are seasonal, that are rare, is we default to, let's do it this way, not because we know it's better, but because it's comfortable and we know what that's going to look like. And our brain likes comfort, even if it is something that we know we don't really like. I mean, people say it all the time when they drink a little too much and they wake up the next day, they're like, oh, I'm never drinking again. 6 hours later, there's a glass of wine in their hand because that short term is like, well, no, let's just go with what's comfortable right now. And if we can overcome that, like you said, Garrett, and build the identity of like, no, this is going to be hard to make this transition, but this is who I want to be. I want to be that expert buyer agent who does this so that my buyers have clarity. Does that mean that there might be some challenges in getting this started? I might have some buyers who maybe don't like that. They want to go see homes first. They're used to that with the other realtors they work with. Yeah. But when I get this dialed in and this becomes how I do it, it becomes the new situational habit. I'm going to see a different level of success that is going to be the version of me as a buyer's agent that I want to be. And that's the cool side that comes out on the other end.
Well, I like how you said, like, there's the comfortable way of doing it. Like, going back to the alcohol for a second, like, it's comfortable at the end of the evening to be like, yeah, I drank too much yesterday, but like, it's wine time. Like, I get to have my glass of wine now.
I'm not going to have the extra drink tonight. I'm just going to do my normal setup and it's going to be fine. And it might be.
But that's where it becomes easy. That's one of the reasons that I actually was like, I just need to just have it just be that I am done for a while, because I had those moments of like, this week I'm going to not drink. It may be like cut back a couple days. So I'm not drinking having a drink every night. Maybe it's just on the weekends. And then it's amazing how many times somebody calls you and says, hey man, we should go and grab a drink. And you're like, all right, sure. And it's like a Tuesday. And you're like, well, so much for that. Like, here I am, beer in hand again, having a beer with my friend, going like, crap, messed that one up already. It's amazing how fast you can go back into your comfortable habits.
Oh, yeah.
It takes about, and I'll be honest, Sarah and I go out and eat a lot. That's kind of we both work out of the house all day long. And there's a certain point at which we're like, we need a break. And our break is we go out and get food here in town. And it takes about 200 days for the server to walk up and say, instead of saying, Garrett, I pay as normal, or to have them go, club soda with lime. I have them all trained now. Club soda with lime. They don't offer me beer anymore. Always club soda with lime. But it's funny to see those transitions start to happen. And that's an identity thing also. Like, and it feels like, for me, it feels good that the servers in town understand when they come up to me, oh, he doesn't drink. That's an identity now that they've made with me. One of the servers came up and said, how many days has it been now? And we had a great conversation about it. And it's like, they're owning that about me, where up front, it was like, really, you're still doing this? Like, all right. Like, but in our businesses, the same thing happens. There's things that we do that feel outside the box. They don't feel like us. Maybe it's writing handwritten notes. There's a lot of you out there right now that I know that want to write handwritten notes. And like, that's going to be weird if I send handwritten notes to my friends. Well, yeah, it is weird because it's not like you. Me not having a beer when I'd go out to eat would throw everybody off. And they'd be like, really? Come on, Garrett. Really? Come on. I get it. Yeah, you want to be healthy, take care of yourself, whatnot. That's not like you though. Let's get you a beer. Supportive friend, you got to love it. But like going back to the handwritten notes, there's a lot of people out there that as they start to write it, go, this doesn't feel like me. This is not, and these are all habits, by the way. These are habits, traditions, identity type stuff that all happens as you're growing into somebody new, as you're changing into somebody new. And you get to decide what you want to be. And it's funny, it doesn't take that long to all of a sudden be the guy that writes handwritten notes. It doesn't take that long to be the guy that, he's the lunch guy. Like he always is taking people. I see him out all over town going out to lunch with people. It doesn't take very long to be the real estate review person that keeps everybody up to date on their real estate. The phone person, it doesn't take very much, but it's an identity piece that you have to own for yourself.
Yeah.
And it took a long time for me to say, instead of I'm taking a break from drinking, to say I don't drink. And that was an interesting thing to watch myself all of a sudden go, the minute those words came out of my mouth to somebody when they offered me I don't drink, I was like, oh, cool. Like I owned it. Like how interesting is that?
It's so fascinating how, the identity shift is important because the little things I was just thinking about as you were talking and mentioning a few things is, okay, what about being the person who's not always checking email? Like think about the habits around your business also filter into your personal life. It's like, oh yeah, Matt went from always having his phone on him to like, yeah, the phone's never there, let's say. And all of these things that ultimately, is there going to be small changes in how your business operates in the short run? Yeah, probably, because people are used to you being a certain way. Like you were saying, your friends are used to you being the guy who was having a beer with a meal. Now you're not that person and your friends are still there hanging out with you.
For a while we'd go out with a couple and you could see them try to figure out what was comfortable. Like it ruined the dynamic of the table a little bit because they were like, are we ordering wine tonight? Are we going to like order wine? I'm like, yeah, guys, order wine. Have at it, enjoy. And there's a weird, when those traditions and those habits change, when you're changing who you are as an identity as a person, it does throw everybody off a little bit.
It does.
It makes some uncomfortable situations.
When you're not answering emails, as soon as somebody sends them, it's going to throw them off. But eventually that's going to work into your favor. And I think we see this a lot actually this time of year as people plan and prepare better for their businesses, whether it's having pre-listing packets, pre-created, a lot of things already printed out and everything. And then all of a sudden, as the year goes on, the preparedness, the material, the inventory of this stuff starts to wane, right? And now all of a sudden we're back into let me just throw it together at the last. That's probably better anyway. I had an agent say, well, I can't really do that until I've gotten to this stage of the listing process anyway. I'm like, is that actually written into your process, or is that just a kind of the way you've done it, and so it's just the way you're going to do it?
Yep.
And is it productive? And sometimes it might be, but I forget exactly what it was we were having a conversation about. I think maybe it was writing a listing description or something. I was like, well, if you had the time a week ago to write it, why didn't you just write it a week ago? Well, because I never write it until after the photos are in. It's like, okay. And how's that working out? It's like, well, I was up late last night writing this listing description so I could get the property into the MLS this morning. I was like, okay, well, maybe that's something we want to change then. We want to change that thing. And that sounds small. And it is small, but it's these small situational habits that if we do change them, it could have a very positive impact on your business and your life. And the beauty is you got to make the choice. You don't have to do these things, right? And it's not like Garrett's way or my way is the best way. You have to find out what is the way for you. And I think, Garrett, there's always this, and you and I were having a little bit of conversation kind of tangent to this topic. And I was thinking like, there's all these little things that go on in the back of my head sometimes where it's like, hey, there's the way I'm doing things and it's good. And then there's the way I really want to be. And even though they're pretty close to each other and I could do both kind of at the same time, it's like, there's just this little cognitive dissonance that's happening that's saying, yeah, but I'm not that.
Yep.
And if I change this, I can be that. And that's probably where I really need to lean into and have the accountability for. And we all have that. We all know in the back of our head that we're making a decision that may not be exactly what we want in the long run. And that's when, okay, write it down and have a conversation with yourself about it.
Well, and I think it's really important, Matt, is that the way that others do it is not necessarily right. My journey is my journey. Me choosing not to drink when I it was funny when I made the decision to start to do it, when I had to justify it to people, my joke was always I drank enough in my first 45 years to make up for the rest of my life if I choose not to drink. I've had all the drinks. I've tried them all. I know what they are. I do them cool. It's not like I'm
It's probably not something cool that's coming out that I'm gonna be like, ooh, I've never had that before.
I wonder what champagne tastes like. I should have that. Like, I know exactly what it tastes like. I don't like it. There's a reason. We're cool. Move along. So it's like, I think it's like I came to that, and that was my justification for it up front. But like, it's interesting. It's like you hear people going like, well, I wake up at, early, and I wake up at 4 o'clock. And you've heard people say, oh, successful people wake up at 4. No, that's not the key to success.
That's key to that person's success because of the way their day is operated.
Yes. Tona Rustine, one of our amazing coaches. If you get a chance to connect up with Tona ever, she is a gem. And Tona posted this morning on Facebook, and it was like, these are the things I'm going to bring into my world. And it's actually a quote by was it Robin Sharma? Like, I don't know why that name
Robin Sharma, maybe. I didn't see the post, but probably.
Yes. And it's about like smile at a stranger. These are like daily habits, all these little things. One of them was 5 a.m. Wake up. And it was funny. Somebody's comment on there was, love it all. You lost me at 5 a.m. And the way I interpret it was like, I can't do any of it because I can't own the 5 a.m. part of it. And part of me was like, and I get it. They're not going to like be like, oh, I'm not smiling at strangers because I can't do this whole thing. I get it. But it's funny how fast we just take one little aspect of it and we kind of kill the energy around this thing, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to own it in my way. I love everything about this. Set that, kick that thing out. That's fine. But I'm going to own the rest of this stuff, and I'm going to change who I am moving forward. And it's funny, that one thing might have been the thing that they would actually have to change. They probably do everything else on that list. And that's the one thing that goes against what their normal habits and routines are. And it's like, whoa, that would cause me to actually have to change. I would support all the other stuff. Like, it's great. I do all those things naturally.
And maybe it's worth exploring that. If you have that type of reaction to something, it's like, well, then maybe it is worth exploring, because I find that if people have a visceral reaction to a habit or a change in something, it's usually because they actually do want to make that change. They're just so comfortable with the current things that they need to justify why they're not doing it. Because if somebody really doesn't want to do it, or they have a system that works, they usually just skate right over it. The reticular activating system is like, I don't even care about that. That's not important in our world. We don't need to pay attention to that because we already got our thing going. Like 6 a.m. wake ups are fantastic. I don't even need to comment about the 5 a.m. thing. Right.
Well, and it goes back to like stopping drinking. I always had an excuse why it was the wrong time. I think for people that want to write notes, people that want to go do lunches, people that want to, go to the gym, start going to church. I mean, whatever it is, we've got things that we can sit back and be like, oh, but that won't work right now because of this. And it's amazing.
Insert comfortable state of being here.
The minute you take ownership of it and say, nope, I'm willing to be somebody different. I want to be different than who I am right now. What does it look like? And I think this is a great time for all of you out there starting off this year of 2024. I think the last couple of years have actually been an incredible reset if you choose to own it that way. Our daily habits got turned on their heads. Our things that we thought were our everyday life, going to the gym, is just, oh, that's just what we do. We always go to the gym. Well, no, you're not going to the gym anymore. That got taken away from you for a little bit. And some of you went back to the gym when gyms opened back up. Some of you still haven't gone back to the gyms because that was something you did pre-COVID. There's all these things that a lot of us started drinking a little bit more during COVID. I know for me, that was one that I saw ramp up in my world that I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, all of a sudden, I just got into a habit of, maybe one more beer a night. Like, that's an interesting thing to kind of get into. We have all this reset that happened, all these kind of bad habits and different habits that came out of this. And I think we're at this really golden time right now of 2024 where it is a little bit more normal. Things have settled down a fair amount. And I think if you choose to say, you know what, I want to reinvent myself right now. I want to take some of the bad habits and throw them out the door. There's some habits of who I want to be. And I kind of go to the stage of life that I'm in right now, Matt, of like, I'm really overanalyzing. And there's something about a midlife crisis that is true. And I'm owning it. I am accepting all pieces of it. But I think that we get this moment to say, is this who I really want to be? And I think everybody goes through it at some point in time of, is this who I really, really, really want to be? Or is this the easy road? Is this just the convenient road right now?
Mm,
And I'm going
mm.
to encourage all of you with 2024 right now, just take a step off the side and look at what path you're on. And are you taking the easy road, or are you taking the road that's really going to make you be the person that you want to be for yourself, for your kids, for your spouse, for your loved ones, for everybody around you, for the people that rely on you for your business, and the best of the best that you can bring? Just take a step back and take a look and see, maybe there might be some things you want to do different. I know for me, it happened about a year ago. And it still happens tremendously every day, Matt, for me.
And know that you're the only one that can answer that too. And it doesn't mean you can't have conversations with people about it, particularly as it comes to business. This is where having a coach is great. And I'm not just trying to say that to plug coaching, but have it,
Matt, good job though.
Whether it's a coach that you pay for, or a mentor, or an advisor, somebody who can just talk through it, to ask you the questions. Well, hey, tell me about how you feel about that process, and what are the results that you're seeing versus what are the results do you want to see? And where's the line between that? These are things that somebody can help talk you through, but you're the one that's going to make the decisions on what you're going to do to move forward with that. So I guess I kind of contradict myself a little bit. I wasn't trying to do that, but basically saying the decision is yours. But if you need to talk to somebody to get through this, to better understand how you're thinking about this, do that, because it's incredible what can happen when you can break out of your own non-conscious identity and have somebody else penetrate it with a question, not a do this, but a let me ask you this specific question about this that might have you think differently. Because it's easy to say somebody, don't do that and do this. And then it's easy for you as your identity to be like, you're wrong or you're right. And then whatever, versus someone saying, let me ask you this, and your whole identity go, wait, hold on. You're blowing my mind right now. This is not what normally happens when I'm thinking about this. And then you get to make the decision, which is awesome.
So I don't think you contradicted yourself at all, because a good coach is not going to tell you what to do. They're going to ask the questions, and what you're going to say, let's take like eating, for example. A good coach is going to listen to somebody who says, I'm not happy with how I feel about my body right now and the weight that I'm currently at. And they're going to be like, well, what are your daily habits right now that you have that directly impact, your weight that you're at? Do you go to the gym? What kind of food do you eat? They're going to ask all these questions. So you have to sit there and say it out loud, what you choose to eat. And this is not me, by the way, but like, you're going to have to say it out loud. I eat a pint of Haagen-Dazs every single night before I go to bed. And you're going to have to sit there and answer, is that a decision that helps you be the person that you want to be, weight-wise, physically wise? Like, is that help or does it hurt? And you're still the one making the decisions, but having the coach in your world that asks you those questions, that makes you have to give some of the difficult answers. And all of us out there, and I'm not saying I am perfect in any single way at all, there are answers sometimes that you have to give that are really hard to say out loud. And I think that, I had to ask myself the question. I've gone back to this for years, and where I've gone like, and I want to say this very carefully, because I have friends of mine that are in AA and things like that. And I always used to hear somebody say, you first have to admit that you have a problem. And I used to always go like, whatever, like, and you hear people like, they have the videos of people standing up and saying, you see them on TV or whatnot when they talk about, hey, my name's Garrett, I'm an alcoholic, or I have a problem with alcohol. And it was interesting, is that was the moment for me. I had to ask myself the question, and I had to say it out loud to my wife, to her face. And I say, I have a problem with alcohol. That for me was the moment that I was open to making a change for myself. And I think that, if you want to start going to the gym every single day, I think you need to admit that you have bad habits in your life that are stopping you from being the person that you want to be. And you have to admit to it. I admit that, if it's eating, certain types of food late at night, like, I'm admitting I have a problem with that. And that does not help me be the best that I want to be. And I think that, there's a part there that you have to acknowledge the things, and you will realize having to say those things is really hard. Having those words come out of my mouth to my wife, I was in tears having to say those words to my wife because it hurt so bad to have to say it because it was so real in that moment in time. The good coach, and one of our Jen Gomez, who's an amazing coach for us. Keep calling out our coaches right now. This is great. Jen Gomez is incredible, and she's notorious for making people cry. And she's like, I made another one cry today. I didn't mean to. She goes, I don't know what's going on. The reason Jen makes people cry is Jen asks really tough questions. And she asks the questions that are holding people back from being the best that they can possibly be to help them go, oh my gosh. And all of a sudden the floodgates open up because they realize they're not having the life and the success that they want to have because of choices that they make every single day and habits they have every single day about, maybe a relationship they're with their kids. And they're like, well, does it help you stopping on the way home every day to have a drink before you go meet your family? Like, is that helping? Is that making it worse? And it's like, is this something you want to change? And these are the things that when you start to have to acknowledge it can hit home. And it's hard to do. And that's the beauty of having a coach in your world. Yeah. Somebody there to ask some of those questions to make you go, I didn't think about it that way, or you're going to make me answer this, aren't you?
And these questions apply directly to business processes too, right?
Yeah.
And being able to admit like, yeah, I don't do that buyer process because I'm fearful that I'm going to lose this opportunity to close a deal, right? Or whatever it is. Maybe that doesn't sound as intense, but it is just as important. I mean, it's there. That's what keeps us doing certain things. When you can say, hey, I want my business at a certain level, and year after year after year, it's not. There's something that we must acknowledge that is keeping us. And like we said when we started this isn't necessarily the daily things. This could be a traditional thing, a seasonal thing, a processorial habit that exists. And look for those things, write them down, acknowledge them.
I know that a lot of people stay away from the 10-step buyers process because they don't want to waste their clients' time. Like literally that is what is the number one piece of the 10-step buyers process is people don't have time for that. And it's like, whoa, like what, like, really? Like that's the reason that's stopping you is you feel that people don't like the thing that's actually generated, and the reason it's there is to help save people time and help them make decisions. And your excuse is I don't want to waste their time with it. Like, what baggage are we holding on to about us wanting to change our current everyday processes and what we do? And we've made up this stupid excuse that I don't want to waste their time with the 10-step buyers process. Like, take a step back and let's look at this from a different angle.
Yeah.
And this is where, again, having somebody that says, how is this going to waste their time? You're going to have to answer that to somebody. Be like,
yeah,
well, let's look at these questions. I had Matt, I had a gentleman I coach, and there's a dialogue that I use at the very beginning of a working relationship with somebody. And the dialogue goes like this. Matt, during the time that we're working with each other, you're going to come across people in the exact situation that you're in right now. They're either needing help buying or selling a house. My goal is to offer levels of professionalism and a level of service so that when you come across somebody like that, you're comfortable putting us in touch with each other so I can help them out also. Would that be okay with you?
Yes.
All right. So that dialogue, I don't have written down here in front of me. It is something that is ingrained into my brain. I made it many, 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 many years ago, important enough for me to remember. I practiced it. I said it in the mirror. That thing flows out of my mouth every single time. I was talking to a gentleman that I coach, and I said, are you using the dialogue? Because his referrals were way down. Lots of people wanted to use him personally. So he had lots of repeat business. He had lots of new business from people out of his database, but his direct referrals were way down. And I said, are you starting your working relationship out setting the stage that you're going to come across people during this time? He goes, yep, I'm using the dialogue every single time. I said, great, tell it to me. And he meandered down this path of like, well, yeah, and then there's this part, and then there's this over here, and then there's this. And I was like, literally every bit of me was like, is this your first time? He goes, no, I do it every time. And then he went back and he said, oh, this is how I actually say it. And he read it off the script. And I was like, dude, you got to make this your own, and it's got to be smooth. It's got to be comfortable. It's got to be yours. Like, this has to be who you are if you're going to do this. You can use my script. You can make up your own, but it's got to just flow out nice and smooth, make it natural. And these are these things. It's like, for some reason, it hasn't been important enough for him to make it so that it is like, that's who I am. That's my identity. It's still Garrett's script. It's still something that I want to use out here. And this is with any scripts. And I think there's a point that we all need to step back and say, I'm choosing to be different. I'm choosing to be a professional with this, whatever it might be. Professional at my family, professional at my health, professional at like, what level do you want to play at around all this stuff? And I think a lot of people want professional results, but they don't want to be a professional.
Ooh.
They don't want to show up at that level.
Oh man, that's the sting right there.
So, I mean, ask yourself, how could you want to be? But you got to show up that way. You got to act that way.
Because that gets into like, where are you practicing? How are you dialing these things in? And we all know when we skip over time blocks. I do it too. Yeah, we're skipping over this, and it's like, oh, but we still want that elite level professional results. But am I doing professional work? Am I putting in professional practice? Am I putting in professional mindset to this?
And a lot of it is in the nuances. It's not the huge stuff.
No.
It's the little things that we do consistently that produce the professional results.
Yeah, and it's not even, and as we said, coming back to where we started, it's not even the everyday things. It could be the weekly thing. It could be the monthly thing, right? Could be how you approached your business planning. Did you block time for your business plan? Did you get it done? You know, looking back in the last 2 months, like, was there a few hours here or there where you could have gotten it done?
Yep.
Is there a few hours here or there in the upcoming week, 2 weeks, where you can get it done so that you have that there?
Now, in full transparency for everybody who's listening out there, because Matt routinely calls me out on the whole non-drinking thing. So we're just going to put it on the table. I had one shot with my wife on our anniversary. We got married on Cinco de Mayo.
And this is a tradition, right?
This is a tradition. And it was funny because both my wife and I were going to bed on our anniversary, and we both sat up at the same time. And she says, this is not right. Something's wrong. The energy feels off. We have not had our shot. And we have a very special bottle of tequila that we have a shot at. We've done it for 22 years. And she was like, we just need to pour it out of the bottle, and we're going to pour it into this plant. I'm like, you'll kill the plants. That plant does not operate off tequila. It's not the way this plant works. And she's like, well, we can just like throw it over our shoulder. We can do something. And I was like, we're having the shot. And she was so concerned about me not wanting to break this journey that I was on, and breaking this journey of my wife and I and our tradition was way more important not to do that than this journey of not drinking. So I did have one shot at 11 o'clock at night on our anniversary. And then we went to bed.
Like 30 something days into your journey. So it still is pretty good, but
we ran down, we did this one shot, and we ran bed. We're like, good night. It's like, that was interesting.
I wonder, and it will be interesting to see the mindset as you approach that after going through all this year. That'll be interesting. See what that looks like.
I will have a shot. I know right now, if I'm going to have anything, that shot will be happening because that tradition, that relationship, that is not going to make me go back to start drinking. It's too important. It's too cool. So
there you go.
It'll still happen.
Well, Garrett, this is a great topic. I mean, there's so much more that we can dive in on this stuff too. It's one of our favorite things to talk about because it also is cathartic for us too, right? I mean, this is one of those topics where if you talk about it, you feel good about it. You're like at the end starting to think like already in my mind, I'm like, oh gosh, what are the things that I need to now sit down and work with for the rest of today, this week, as I prepare for 24. So thank you for bringing this on the table. This is a great one for sure.
Appreciate it, man. Again, it's been one of those things that I've been like going, when the right time to talk about it, it'll come out. And going through the holidays made me walk away going like, there's a lot of eye-opening moments I've had during these days. Making my best friend a holiday drink when he walked in was one of the weirdest ones. I was like, can I make you like, it was fun just to make a drink. And he's like, this doesn't bother you at all? I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm actually kind of excited to make you a drink.
I got to go through the motions, and here you go.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's great. Well, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We always appreciate you guys listening. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. If you have not yet discovered our community on Facebook, head over to Facebook and search for the Ninja Selling Podcast. You'll find over 14,000 amazing people in there where you can mingle with, learn with, all the great things. And if you want to learn more about coaching, which is where Garrett and I spend most of our time, head over to ninjacoaching.com. That'll direct you to the page on ninjaselling.com where there is information about coaching, and you can find more information about ninja selling there too. And stay tuned in, obviously, because we're going to be here. We're not going anywhere. There's a lot more episodes to come, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great one. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.